Hi, my name is Phillip from the Campaign for Truth in Medicine, and you're listening to Up Close and Personal for the month November 2007. Right, the news as we have it at the moment. First of all, on Europe, what are we going to do to save our beloved Britain from being taken over? Of course, after the Lisbon Treaty we now have this ever closer union with Europe continuing apace. And Peter Hitchens writing in the Mail saying, frankly, people think it's ridiculous that people are not saying more about it. A huge number of our laws have been drawn up in Brussels and hurried through Parliament without anybody really understanding what they are doing. A lot of us still don't even grasp why it is we can no longer have nice blue British passports. They also don't grasp why they have to queue for ages to get back into the country after a holiday. They aren't paying attention. The passport you have is not British, it's European. It gives you no more right to enter this country than if you were a Lithuanian. So obviously we need to do something about this. This was, of course, the entire Campaign for Truth in Europe tour that I did a few years ago. And I noticed that people were very shy about coming out and making their feelings known about this. There seems to be this whole institutional apathy going on as well in government over the fact that Britain is now no longer being run by Britain. You've heard this message 100 times before. What Peter Hitchens is really asking is whether you're prepared to do something about it, or whether you're going to sit back and allow this slow-motion coup d'etat of Britain to occur at the hands of foreign powers. If you want to know what you can do about it, you can log on to our website here. In fact, just click the button over on the left there which says Watch Films Online and have a look at that EU video that we put together a few years ago, and that will explain what the situation is. On the same subject, there's another rather alarming report that was made to Parliament, an almost empty House of Commons. In fact, a certain 19-year-old Mr. Mendy was on holiday with two friends in the Canaries, where he was arrested for passing a couple of counterfeit €50 notes. And of course this is when the true nightmare sets in of exactly what rights you have and don't have anymore. The three men, this was Mr. Mendy and his friends, were held in custody for 2 days, subjected to racial abuse and given only one bread roll to eat. When a court then told them to report back the next morning, they returned to find their room ransacked and most of their belongings had been stolen. Next day, the court allowed them to return to England, but told them they would be hearing from the Spanish authorities again, which of course they duly did in March of this year. And long story short, they were told to report to London, where they were then arrested by Spanish police, taken out to Madrid, and they were learnt there that the Spanish courts were on holiday, and therefore they were being kept in jail for 2 months. In September, Mr. Mendes' Spanish lawyer told him that if he pleaded guilty, he would only be given a small fine and a suspended sentence, but if he chose to maintain his innocence, and there was not a shred of evidence against him, he could expect to remain in prison for up to a year until his case was heard. This simply would not happen under British law, but we're now no longer under British law. So this is a wake-up call for people in this country to turn around and understand what's happening and to protest before it's too late. Because once it is too late, I don't want to hear the squealing. There's going to be lots of disaffected people once they realise exactly what has happened and the fact that they can no longer do anything about it. And the real danger with this European experiment is that if the British don't want to do it anymore, that's it. Tough. The only way you're ever going to get free from Europe is by going to war. And how are you going to do that if all of your armed forces are under foreign command? On the health side, leukemia, is it a fungal problem? The answer is yes, it is. Studies, in fact, we show a couple of studies in this bulletin that show that leukemia and fungi are very bound up, that when the body is under attack from fungal, especially systemic fungal problems, the immune system will start generating large amounts of white cell activity to combat it, and that's what causes the leukemic gridlock. So we look at various antifungal regimes, of course, wormwood, astragalus, echinacea, colloidal silver. Allicin is a brilliant antifungal. You move into the drugs like fluconazole and others like that, which work very well for it. Cervical cancer jab, Gardasil, is linked to deaths in the US. More problems over this whole cervical cancer jab that's being administered across the board in America. Exercise, this is one of my favourites, of course. People hate exercise. I'm no exception. In the past, I loathed exercise, got very large, wouldn't exercise. You have to make excuses for why you don't exercise. That's why people generally turn around and say, oh, it's something I'll do tomorrow. So we have gym memberships and people don't use them. The thing with exercise, Mercola says, is find an activity you enjoy. shorten your workouts and increase intensity. For those bodybuilders watching this, if you log on to precisiontraining.com, this is Peter Sisko's site. He erstwhile Ironman magazine, and this shows how some of the top bodybuilders in the business are getting amazing results with very short workouts but with high intensity. Precisiontraining.com. September was a banner month for drug industry crimes. September saw settlements by drug companies and medical device manufacturers for criminal activity in the United States, would you believe? Reports Mike Adams. Mike Adams is a man after my own heart. He runs the newstarget.com website, and the world is very well served by Mike Adams, who himself has received numerous attacks to try to get him shut down. And he, like the Campaign for Truth in Medicine, he's out there telling people how things really are and encouraging you to take responsibility over your own actions. Who will regulate the regulators? Health and safety excesses are killing enterprise and common sense. There can be fewer bodies as detested by industry or as despised by the British public as the good old Health and Safety Commission. Health and safety is a good scam for raising more taxes, that's all. You cannot legislate the risk out of life, you just can't. But we live in a risk-averse, namby-pamby country where people will try to blame everybody else but themselves on this. And so just recently we had the first bonfire night. Samantha and I went to the first bonfire night in living memory where there was no bonfire. Because they were frightened the kids were going to throw themselves on it, or there's going to be all kinds of no sparklers. You remember in the old days you could have sparklers, and the whole thing is if we can save just one life. Well, if you want to save just one life, go ahead and lock everybody up in their houses on an all-day curfew and see how far that gets you. The British public and generally other countries looking in are pretty smart about looking after themselves. And as for the stupid people that do silly things, well, that's natural selection. The danger of going the conventional route. There's a great little podcast, I'm sure many of you have seen it already, by Dr. Joseph McCullough on the absolute scathe of problems that have been occurring in traditional medicine. He's put it all together for you in a little podcast in this particular bulletin. Give it a look. It's an amazing wake-up call to how many people place their blind faith in modern medicine. And I won't give all the rest of the articles away, just the weekly health tip will be turning it off, controlling the amount of bad news you're getting to hear. This is the old TV routine again. We have a great book called Remotely Controlled by Dr. Eric Sigman that gets into not just the dangers of TV, not just the dangers of the medium itself, but of course the effect the information has on you. And clearly I've got an uphill battle persuading everybody to take their TVs out and bury them under the patio. But the fact remains that you are everything that you've ever done to yourself. And that includes shouldering the burden of all the bad news that gets dumped on your breakfast table and what you get to see in the evening news bulletins. So be sensible about this. Have a look at that. And the next bulletin will be into December. It scarcely seems possible that months have gone by since our summer. We've had a great late summer here. Hopefully it will last a week or two longer. But for the rest of you, we will be doing 2 more meetings on the cancer front this year. They will be in Norwich in the UK and also Brentwood, and they're occurring the week after next. So if you've not got your tickets for those, go ahead and pick those up. And then after that, we will be starting the new tour. I'm not going to give anything away just yet. Commencing January. It looks like we're going to be paying a visit to Malta as well in the mid-part of January. And yes, for those of you who be bearing us in emails, we will be coming to Australia and New Zealand next year, 2008. And that tour will probably kick off as usual around about the 1st of October. That's all the news I have for you now. Have a great month. Catch up with you in 30 days. Bye-bye.